All right, it's bye week for the Green Bay Packers. Join Rob and I as we check in on the Packers midway through the season. We are 6-3. We're currently a playoff team, and we'll tell you where we think the Packers will end up when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Gouda, bye week edition. Normally in this Saturday slot, we are previewing an upcoming opponent. This week, we don't have an opponent, but we are going to check in on where we've been, some of the topics and things we talked about in the preseason or the days leading up to the season, and kind of look at what's coming ahead of us. My name is Jordan Olson, and my co-host here is Rob Ralph. We are two best friends, and we are the co-authors of the Sounds Gouda podcast. So thanks for everybody who's here listening to us. Thanks to our returning listeners, anybody that's new. We're always excited to be talking Packers football with you. But you can check us out on Wednesdays and Saturdays on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So Rob, let's kind of look at where the Packers stand coming into the bye week here. We are 6-3. Why don't you run us through the NFC standings and where we're looking at right now?
Yeah, so the NFC is extraordinarily competitive. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. There's obviously been a couple of teams that have been shockers, to use that term again, or surprises. There you go. That's a better term. The Washington Commanders at 7-2, excuse me, sit in that second place. Obviously, the Detroit Lions, what I think is the best team in football that just routed the Packers. They're at 7 wins and 1 loss in the top of the NFC standings. You know, the other one I'll put in there, a couple other ones too. Minnesota Vikings at 6-2. I just remember even going through our pod from earlier before the season had started. I don't think anybody had saw this for the Minnesota Vikings, probably even themselves. So that was a big surprise. The NFC West really just seems up for grabs. Who the heck is going to grab the NFC West? Right now, the Arizona Cardinals are leading that division, and they're another surprise in here too. You know, they've kind of had some ebbs and flows and ups and downs, but have stacked together a couple of some really good wins here lately. And they sit at fourth in the NFC division at 5-4. You got the Atlanta Falcons at 6-3. I don't think that's too surprising. I think some people were getting a little bit scared there at the beginning when they had lost a couple of games. But Kirk Cousins looks like he's regaining his form. He's getting some really nice play action. His play action mobility stuff back for him too as well. They absolutely they didn't destroy the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are a bad football team, but they definitely put them on them. The Philadelphia Eagles at 6-2. You know, they sit at 6th in the NFC. And then our Green Bay Packers, with the loss last night, which is just absolutely brutal and a really competitive NFC, as you can see. 6-3, they sit at the 7th spot. So, you know, if the playoffs were starting today, and yes, there is still a lot of ball game left, we'd be taking on the Washington Manders. Yes, I said Manders. And surprise there with Jaden Daniels and that whole team, which is probably the biggest surprise in the NFC for anybody. What are some things that have stood out to you as far as this NFC goes so far midway through the season?
Come on, Rob, put some respect on the Commanders name.
The Manders.
The Manders. I still think I would have liked the Washington football team better. I mean, I hated that at first,
Agreed.
But then it kind of really grew on me. I'm like, this is kind of a really classy and classic name. But, you know, we have the Commanders, and they're a young and hungry football team. Totally right about the Vikings. I had them picked at the bottom of the division. And, you know, the Packers, if you told me that going into the bye week, the Packers would be 6-3, and they'd be safely in the playoff standings, in the playoff hunt, I would be good with that, right? Especially if you said, hey, we lost a game to the Lions, we lost a game to the Eagles in a weird game where we go to Sao Paulo and Brazil, and we're trying to figure that out. And then, of course, we split with the Vikings every year, right? So I guess I'm not surprised by where we're at this point in time of the season at all. Why we're the 7th seed, there's some pretty good cushion between us and the tier of teams below us, the Buccaneers, the Bears, the Niners, and the Rams all at 4-4, which we've got games against some of those opponents coming up, which is a great transition. So kind of what do we have moving forward from here, right? We're in the bye week right now. We come out of the bye week and we play at the 4-4 Bears. Then we have 2 home games, one against the 4-4 49ers, which they expect to get Christian McCaffrey back. Rob and I will be at that game. Super excited for that. And I don't know what we're going to do post game. Maybe we'll have something special for you guys. Maybe not, but we'll have to try to figure that out.
Drunk
We have the
edition.
Dolphins. We might be professional journalists, and I might have to be making a long drive back to La Crosse. So we might get together on Monday after that one. But Rob and I will be there having some fun, and hopefully, I do not have a strong track record when I've been there in person against the 49ers. So I'm hoping for my first win against the 49ers, and so, but. Then we have the Thanksgiving game against the Dolphins, so we have a short turnaround at the Lions, at the Seahawks, which traveling out west. And, the Seahawks, I think there's a chance that probably, that could be a game that's really close in the spread. Maybe I see Seahawks, -1 or Seahawks -2.5 or something there. But I think we're going to have a chance. That game scares me a little bit on the road. I think that's a Sunday night game. And we have a Monday night game at home against the Saints, which they don't look very good at Lambeau on a couple days before Christmas. We're at the Vikings and then at the Bears. So what do you see for the remaining part of the schedule here, Rob, if you kind of had to put a projection on it or kind of a guess on how we close out the year?
Yeah, well, let's see. At Bears, Packers should be favored. I really hope that they should win that one. Bears have looked very bearish lately. 49ers, man, just worst luck ever. So I honestly don't know. But we're going to be at that game, so you're gosh darn right. And yes, I did want to swear there, and I didn't. I'm going to take a dub for that one. So a dub there. Dolphins, that could be tough. They got Tua back. The record right now is 2-6, but we all know what Tua back in that offense, that's pretty potent. So could be a loss. Usually we do pretty good at Detroit, but that's a tough couple of game stretch there too. So wouldn't shock me at all. Like again, too, the Lions are just a really good football team that's at their house in a dome and perfect conditions too. But the Lions, at least the last few years, the Lions are winning at Lambeau and the Packers are winning in Detroit. So that seems to be the trend, but you know how trends work. They always can go off and could this year. So then at Seahawks, that's always a tough travel, tough environment, no matter who it is. No, I'm not going to bring up 2014 nightmares and Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson and that. But anyways, that's always a tough crowd there for the Seahawks. Saints 2-7, I think we should win, but you never really know when the team's got nothing to lose. Look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They were still pretty competent, gave the Packers a good test. And then at Vikings, again, too, the Vikings lately have been seeming to win at Lambeau. Packers are winning in Minnesota. That's the trend again. And then, at home against the Bears. Bears are very hot and cold right now. They're kind of seeming pretty cold, so you never really quite know. So, finishing out the year at definitely for sure at least 10 wins to be able, I think me and you were just talking about this, 10 wins to be able to get into the playoffs, should be able to get you into the playoffs, I would think. But you'd feel a lot more comfortable at 11-12. So 5-3 for sure, but possibly that could be 4-4 to be 10 wins on the season.
Yeah. If from here out we go 4-4, I think that's a massive disappointment for us, right? We probably feel really like the season went sideways on us if we finish 500 at this point in time. I think the Packers will be favored in probably 6 out of these 8 games. I feel pretty good about the 5-3 projection. I'd like to say that we sweep the Bears. We get at least one against the Lions or Vikings, and we're looking at being an 11-win, 6 seed going in. That's kind of how I project us to finish out the season. So one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to check in on some topics from earlier in the season. Rob and I, one of my favorite episodes we've done is we kind of did 12 things to win the division. Obviously, we're not winning the division right now. It still happened, but just kind of an interesting exercise to review the 12 things that we said we would need to do if we were to make that happen and have a successful season, right? First of all, number one was stay healthy. We've been fairly healthy. Jordan Love's missed 2.5 games. Malik Willis has been right there to navigate that through. We've had some other key players miss some games, but I'm going to say that we have not lost games because of our health this season. We're navigating similar or less health issues than a lot of other teams. So I think check mark right now, doing okay, knock on wood that we stay healthy. 2, top QB play. This one, I think, might be one of the most highly contested topics on this list. You know, we had Jordan Love, who missed 2.5 games, but he's 6th in the league in passing yards per game right now, 7th in the league in touchdowns, even after missing 2.5 games. 1st in interceptions, 20th in QBR, 21st in passer rating. So approaching that lower third of the league. Very polarizing in how you want to look at these statistics. He's had a little bit of bad luck, some bad decision making. But I don't think we can safely say that he's in that top 10 right now. I'm hoping that stabilizes and we can say we've had that top 10 QB play throughout the seasons. You want to hit our next couple ones, Rob?
Yeah, so 3rd on the list, reach potential in offense. We've seen, obviously, a ton of flashes of brilliance, but 9th in points per game, 25.6. 8th in pass yards per game, 235. 5th for rush yards per game, 154. That's an awesome one. Jacobs obviously has a ton to contribute to that. And then top five should be obtainable. We could do that with Matt LaFleur. Continuing with good play calling, and I think he's been extra in his bag this year, specifically in some of the run designs and ways he's employing those with this offense, which has been awesome. But overall good. Some questionable, specifically last night, the 1 yard they needed to get that they kept trying to pass the ball on multiple times. But and then player development, which we thought has been overall pretty good so far. So the 4th one, obviously solid O-line play, health, I thought it's been pretty good. Obviously last night, Jenkins graded out poorly. It was rainy, it was pretty tough conditions, but obviously botched more than a few snaps. We'll chalk that up to repetition, to the weather, and to obviously not playing that position, quite as much. So a couple of missed snaps, but overall I think that the offensive line has been pretty good. There's been obviously a ton of penalties, so we got to clean that up. Namely, the pre-snap penalties, which are, I think we lead the league or we're 2nd, and with the most. So it's quite alarming. And then continuing to run, opening up run lanes for Josh Jacobs and co. So like I alluded to, Matt LaFleur has been his bag as far as that design goes. But whether it was Morgan, Jenkins, Ryan, if you get this offense to be a run first, play action, build passes off of that. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but that Malik Willis is evident to show that works. Like, this works for this offense. They can run the football. Obviously, they're 5th in the league this year. So I'd like to see a lot more of that and a lot less trying to pass the ball 35, 40 times, but just, continuing to do that. And then 2nd, and sacks given up as well for this offensive line. So their pass blocking is absolutely elite. So 1.3 per game. And then only Buffalo is better than that, which is absolutely incredible. So
number 5 on our list was limit mistakes. Big negative in this category, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. I think everybody knows where we're at. Rob talked about being 2nd in the league in pre-snap penalties. We're doing pretty good in the turnover margin in general, which we're going to get to, but we have had some costly turnovers, namely one in last night's game, that have cost us an opportunity to win a game in this division, right? And earlier in the season, we talked about clock management being good at the end of both halves. Overall, I think we're passing the test there, but we'll see. Improved special teams is something that we talked about at nauseum. We started out the season with our kicking carousel, and obviously Goody's brought in Brandon McManus to resolve that kicking situation. You could probably say that we might have won the Vikings game, even though there were a lot of other issues there. Had we made one of those field goals, we could easily be 7-2 right now. And without Brandon McManus, we might have lost one of the last, couple games here as well. So we could be looking at a much different record. Not going to hold the field goal and the monsoon against him too much from yesterday's game against the Lions. I think overall he'll be all right. But the punt return game still scares the crap out of me. Keyshawn Nixon and Jaden Reed give me a heart palpitation every time that ball's up in the air and they haven't waved for a fair catch yet. The roller coaster on special teams will continue, to be determined on that.
Yeah. 7, more aggressive on defense. I was obviously riding the defensive train all off season, still on it. And I think it's been a massive improvement. Obviously, Xavier McKinney in itself has been a massive improvement back there. But sacks and pressures obviously needs improvement. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It just needs to be better. So insert your Rashawn Gary, your Preston Smith, your Lucas Van Ness. Maybe a little bit more Aaron Mosby, a little speed rush there off the side. We were seeing against the Detroit Lions. So brings a different element, right, too, and maybe we like to see a little bit more of that. But tackle at the point of contact to limit yards after contact. Must stop the run. 10th in the league against the rush, which is awesome. We were 28th last season. Third down rate for conversions, 7th. We are this year at 31.01%. 25th last season, 41% last season. So 7th this season, and third down rate, 25th last year at 41%. And then another big one here too, but take the ball away, right? The plus minus turnover differential. We are sitting at +6, which is awesome. And then first in the NFL, 19 takeaways. That is awesome, man. Because we had 18 all of last season, and we still got a whole other half of football to go.
Heck yeah.
So Jordan had to go, so it's just me left here. But number 9, take points in obvious situations. Hard to think of many situations this season, so I thought did pretty good there. Number 10, stars play like stars. Obviously, Jordan Love, some bad decision. Needs some more pressure from Gary. Ja just needs to continue to stay healthy. Otherwise, I think he's been pretty good. Jacobs, a couple of pluses and a couple of A+. Kenny Clark needs to be a little bit better, and McKinney's obviously been a star. Number 11, win divisional games. So far, 0-2, and those are both coming at Lambeau, so that's just bad. And then 12, get some lucky breaks. So, items, that's just some of the things that we just have the least control over. So, things to work on the bye week. Obviously, penalties. We are second in pre-snap penalties, which is very alarming. Drops, we are 4th in the NFL. Red zone scoring, 29th in the NFL in red zone touchdowns. Have left 83 points, so 4-point swing on field goal versus touchdowns on the field for that. And then bad decision making for Jordan Love. So your interceptions / your pick sixes, specifically with the Rams and with the Lions. So sitting at this time today, wide receiver 1 conversation. Jaden Reed, to me, looks like the clear alpha number 1. I know there's still some debate and conversation as far as that being just an overall, wide receiver 1 group, or, all working collectively, that we don't have an alpha wide receiver 1, but he has 36 receptions on 47 targets, 620 yards for a 17.2 average and 3 touchdowns. So overall, I'm thinking Jaden Reed is starting to come away in that pack, but the other wide receivers are showing some good numbers. Well, that's all we have for you today. Let me know what you think of this list. As always, we do have more content from Sounds Good every Wednesday and every Saturday. Wednesday is the recap from the game previous, and Saturday is the preview for the upcoming game. Thank you, as always, for coming back and taking a listen to us. We are on X. I am at Robert79. Jordan is at Olson Jord. We are, of course, on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We definitely appreciate it, and we're looking forward to coming out of the bye week and hopefully getting the win at Chicago against the Bears. So until next time, Packers Nation, we hope you have a good morning, a good night, and a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Take care. Go Pack, go.
Been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey.